Those who truly understand Feng Shui never assess it for their own homes. It's not because they fear revealing the secrets of heaven, but there has always been a saying in the industry: Feng Shui can nurture people but also harm them. When my dad was young, everywhere was very poor. At that time, a Feng Shui master seeking refuge came to our home. My dad, being kind-hearted, went inside and brought out 2 steamed buns and a bowl of water. Little did anyone know, after finishing, the gentleman pointed at the well in the courtyard and said, "Brother, there's a well in the western corner of your yard. The Feng Shui is not good. As the saying goes, a dry well does not meet spring. Listen to me, plant a tree at the wellhead. It won't be long before things start to turn around for you." My dad is also afraid of being poor, treating a dead horse as if it were alive. That night they brought a willow tree and planted it by the well. It's strange to say, the father often goes hungry while hunting. From that day on, I always returned with a full load. Later, my dad introduced me to my mom. The days of the 2 people are getting better and better. Little did I know, this Feng Shui brought more than just my father's contract. There are even more terrifying consequences. On the day I was born, I have a strange birthmark at the back of my head, like a coiled snake. The midwife was a bit scared at that moment. She said my birth chart is very special. On a cold winter night, it happened to be the hour of the moon. It's nicely called a young boy's fate. To put it harshly, it's a debt collector. She delivered babies her whole life. You've never seen a baby like me. So scared that they didn't even accept the red envelope. Fled my home overnight. My dad had me late in life. So happy I can't contain myself. They didn't take the midwife's gossip seriously at all. But shortly after I was born, something strange happened. Frequently has unexplained fevers. My dad has taken me to many hospitals, but we still haven't found the cause of my illness. He only thinks of me as malnourished and weak. But one night, until one day, my mom got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Just as I squatted down, I heard intermittent crying coming from the courtyard. My mom instantly lost all her drowsiness. "Who is crying in the yard in the middle of the night?" She pulled up her pants and was about to go outside to see what was happening. Suddenly, someone tapped her on the back. This scared my mom so much that she shivered all over. She turned around and looked back. A smiling old lady stood behind, looking like a doting grandmother. The top of the head is pointed with a pure white appearance. Her face was as white as paper. She pulled at her sleeve, crying and murmuring to my mom, "Oh, my poor egg! I came to pick her up. Have you seen my unfortunate child?" Mom was so scared that she screamed out loud, dragged the old lady's hand and ran back into the room. I shook my dad awake with all my strength. Dodo hesitantly talked about someone having a grand funeral at the door. My dad obviously doesn't believe it. I ask Mom if she's in a daze from sleep. "What nonsense are you talking about in the middle of the night?" Just as she finished speaking, the sound of soft crying outside the door came again. This time my dad heard it loud and clear, hurried and pushed the window to take a look. Indeed, a white hat used for mourning was found hanging from the beam. My dad suspects someone is playing a prank, grabbed the stick and go out to assess the situation. But when he pushed the door open to leave, the wailing old lady has vanished without a trace. My dad searched everywhere, only found a piece of snake skin the size of a palm next to the well in the yard. Wrinkled, the snake scales are about the size of a fingernail. There were a pair of pitch black footprints on the ground. The tip of my toes is directly facing my crib. My dad was terrified by this scene, hastily ran back to close the door. Unexpectedly, the door slamming woke me from my deep sleep, opened my eyes, and cried, kicking my legs wildly with small fists. His face was pale, and he looked like he couldn't catch his breath. Mom hurried over to check. I found a dark blue mark suddenly appearing on my neck. Screamed in fright. "Dad, come look. What's wrong with the baby?" My dad stared wide-eyed, terrified to the point of losing his soul. I noticed that the serpentine birthmark on the back of my head had grown significantly larger, coiled around the neck. It's like being choked by a rope. The more you look, the more it appeals to you. He quickly turned on the light. "Take out all the candles at home and light them." The room became very bright. My breathing gradually stabilized. Only the birthmark remains prominent. The next morning my mom was crying. It seemed like that thing came here to play yesterday. Did our child bump into something? My dad had a gloomy expression while holding the gun. The words of the midwife echoed repeatedly in my mind. Could it be that this child is truly a debt-collecting spirit? Such a big incident has occurred. Dad doesn't dare to delay. Carrying a jar of liquor to find Chen Mazi from the neighboring village. This person used to tell fortunes for others when he was young. If someone has a red and white celebration at home, they surely won't go wrong seeking him out. When my dad came to visit, Chen Mazi was resting in a recliner, keeping the door closed to gather his thoughts. Upon seeing my dad in such a fiery state, you can guess that something happened at my home. She refused to agree to leave with my dad no matter what. He claimed he had long since washed his hands of it. My dad also has a quick temper. She simply sat down on his doorstep, shouting that if you don't go, I won't leave. Chen Mazi was at a loss whether to laugh or cry as he helped him up and said, "It's not that I stand by and watch someone die without helping. I just helped too many people with fortune-telling when I was young, accumulating too much karma. Side, forget it. Accidents are unavoidable. I'll accompany you on this trip. We need to discuss why Chen Mazi suddenly changed his mind. Mainly, it's a significant favor owed to my family. He was captured by the militia when he was young. As a typical example of breaking old thoughts. Closed the cowshed several times. At that time, it was freezing cold. If it weren't for my grandmother's kindness in giving him a wet mouthful, I'm afraid Chen Mazi has long since frozen to death in the cowshed. Afterwards, he recognized my grandmother as his godmother. I should call him uncle according to our family hierarchy. When I got home, Chen Mazi was about to enter to check the situation. I suddenly stopped by the well in the backyard, looking at the large willow tree planted by the well. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide and shouted, "Who told you to plant willows on the dragon well? The willow tree invites shadows. Will obstruct the circulation of the ancestral home's energy. No wonder life at your home is unsettled. My dad doesn't understand these things." Just as I was about to speak, I heard my mom scream from inside the house. Hurry into the house and ask Mom what happened. It turns out this was happening while my dad was going to invite Chen Mazi. My mom took a short nap on the bed because she didn't sleep all night last night. But instead, I dreamt of my grandfather. He was disheveled and covered in rags, bleeding. "Pick me up from the crib and let's go." My mom ran up to stop it, but it was of no use. No one can stop Grandpa. During the struggle, Grandpa said someone wanted to harm me. "You must send me away to preserve the Wang family's lineage. Why are you back after the old man has been buried for so long? Do you want to see your grandson?" My dad said helplessly. Chen Mazi rubbed his hands together. He pulled out an octagonal oil lamp from his pocket, then lighted with a match. It swayed a few circles above my forehead. I don't know how it happened. The birthmark on my neck slowly faded away, reshape it into a small snake, curling up under the back of the head. The pale little face also regained its rosy color. At that moment Chen Nazi carried the oil lamp and walked toward the inner room, rummaged through everything to find one. I found a hole under the crib. Seeing this, my dad stammered and asked, "What's going on here?" Chen Mazi did not respond but instead fetched a hoe. He smashed down towards that hole. A fist-sized hole appeared, reached in the hole and rummaged for a long time. Before long, a pile of white bones from the fish scales was taken out. The bones are very thin. At a glance, they are clearly animal remains. Chen Mazi pieced these bones together. Suddenly, they displayed a nearly 2-meter long snake carcass. My dad witnessed the flames spitting down on the whole city. "Where did this thing come from?" "You don't even know." Chen Mazi frowned and said, "Next, I found a red cloth to collect the snake bones. Then I sighed and went out of the inner room with my dad. In the backyard, Chen Mazi pointed at the willow tree by the well and spoke again. "Tell me what's the story behind this willow tree?" My dad leaned back and recounted everything that happened back then. After hearing this, Chen Mazi cursed loudly. "It's confusing. This well is located directly on the yin spot of your ancestral home. Jinku Ziyang, just right for the air to flow smoothly. But you planted a willow tree to change your fortune. Willow trees and shadows will block the feng shui of the old house. Negative energy that cannot be released will keep accumulating in your home. The child will naturally encounter trouble." When Sheng's dad wanted to chop down the willow tree with an axe on the spot, but he was stopped by Chen Mazi. Planting willow trees in the backyard is considered inauspicious. But it's not enough to cause your son to die young. The biggest problem in your home is not this willow tree. My dad asked in confusion, "What is the reason for that?" Chen Mazi shook his head. "Let him clarify everything that happened after my birth." My dad lit a cigarette, talking endlessly about the situation after my birth. Chen Mazi's brows furrowed deeper and deeper, looked at the shed snake's skin. I looked again at the snake bones dug up from beneath my baby's crib, sighed helplessly. "This is quite troublesome. Your family must have caught the eye of Chang Tai Nai." My dad paused and asked him who Chang Tai Nai was. Chen Mazi explained that this is the teaching method of the North. In northeast China, Hu, Huang, Bai, Liu, and Hui are referred to as the 5 immortal families. Liu Zion is also known as Chang Zion. Chang Tai Nai refers to the old snake that has cultivated its nature in the mountains. The snake's nature is vengeful and toxic. Last night, the couple saw the wailing old lady at the door. That's Chang Zion. At this point, Chen Mezi paused and stretched his hand towards my neck, saying continuously, "The birthmark on the back of this child's head is the death mark left by Chang Tai Nai. Why is she targeting my son?" My dad said, both angry and scared. Chen Mezi squinted his eyes and said, "I want to know this question too. Think back carefully. Did I ever collide with Grandma Changtai before my son was born?" Hearing the voice, my father's heart gradually calmed down. After thinking for a long time, I finally remembered something. That was shortly after my mom became pregnant with me. My body is weak, and I drink traditional Chinese medicine every few days. It happened to be the ghost festival that day. My dad first took her to the health clinic in town using a tricycle. Only went to the mountains to visit Grandpa's grave when it got dark. As soon as we arrived, we heard something in the weeds by my grandfather's grave. Suddenly, a strange sound of giggling came from the hole. My dad leaned in to take a closer look. A large, arm-thick snake suddenly sprang out of the bushes, quietly lying on Grandpa's grave, hissing and showing its serpentine nature. My dad lived in the mountains since he was young. It's rare to see such a thick snake. It is said that snake meat is nutritious. So he immediately caught the giant snake. Go back and kill him, then make soup for my mom to drink." Hearing this, Chen Mazi's mouth immediately twitched as he slapped his big mouth and said, "That big flower snake should belong to Chiang Tai Nai. You skinned his son alive. Who would be willing to give up? You harmed his descendants. He will cut off your family's lineage. This is called retribution." Hearing this, my dad asked with some doubt, "How long has it been? Why didn't he take revenge earlier?" But she insisted on waiting until my son turned 1 month old. Chen Mazi took a moment to catch his breath before speaking. "That's because your ancestors were once high-ranking officials. I will confront you directly. He himself will face divine retribution. We must first find a way to break your family's fortune before we can act." He planned early. First, dig a hole in your yard. Then stuff his son's remains under the crib. The weak infant is accompanied day and night by the serpent. It's hard to avoid being affected by resentment. The body naturally won't improve. The situation wasn't that bad originally. The Feng Shui of the old house can play a role in warding off bad luck. Yet my dad, for a little money, the willow tree planted at the wellhead brought bad luck to the family. Only then did the evil energy find a foothold. My dad's heart has turned cold, begging Chen Mazi for a solution. Chen Mazi shook his head and said, "It's not easy to handle. Chiang Tai Nai's harm will surely affect 3 generations. Not only you, but my son will also suffer. Even the immortals underground will be restless." At this point, Chen Mazi seemed to have thought of something, hastily grabbed my gear and called my dad to head out, running towards the Wang family's ancestral home. Indeed, my grandfather's grave has already been severely damaged. A large pit inexplicably collapsed under the tombstone. The pit is filled with traces of snake trails. Underneath the coffin board, there are still over 100 snake eggs pressed down. Chen Mazi took out the snake egg to taste. By she electric switch. This is also a way to ruin your family's aura. The corpse of the immortal will bring misfortune to at least 3 generations. No wonder my grandpa sent a dream to my mom. Remind him to send the toy away as soon as possible. My dad's eyes were glazed over. Startled, he sat down with a thud. "Mr. Chen, then you watch." "What should I do?" Chen Mazi sighed. "It's difficult to handle. I can only talk to him myself. I'll stick a talisman on your chest. As long as we get through tonight, everything will be peaceful." When Chen Mazi returned home, he first made a small coffin out of willow wood. "Put me in a small coffin." A talisman pressed against the chest. "Tie my hands and feet with mechanical wires." They brought in another Luhua wire rooster, the other end of the red thread. Finally, the small coffin was sealed. Only a narrow slit remained for breathing. He himself donned a yellow robe and stood in the middle of the hall. It was a little past 1 in the morning. The soft sound of crying echoed again in the courtyard, mixed with heart-wrenching cries. As soon as my parents heard the crying, they quickly knelt down. Bumping my head, blood kept flowing and wouldn't stop, constantly muttering to himself that he deserves to die, seeking forgiveness from the great-grandmother. Seeing my parents with their heads bleeding and battered, Chen Mazi suddenly stood up, scattered a handful of millet on the ground, rushed out of the courtyard with big strides. Until dawn approaches, Chen Mazi dragged his weary feet home, holding onto something I don't know what it is. The strangled machine said, "It has become. Let's play and have some fun. Mom and Dad, thank you so much." I was revealed to be placed in a small coffin. Indeed, her face has become much more radiant. The snake-shaped birthmark on the back of the head vanished without a trace. He Chen Mazi couldn't feel happy. The eyes kept staring blankly at me. My dad noticed he had feelings, but secretly asked Chen Mazi what was wrong. Chen Mazi sighed and spoke the truth. Your family's misfortune is mostly resolved, but this thing has been schemed against by grandma since childhood, causing evil to invade the body. A child's fate in early youth. Fate is full of ups and downs. It seems we are about to face 3 disasters and 9 calamities. It's hard to raise them to adulthood. Chen Mazi made a suggestion. I hope to adopt myself. In his youth, he divined fortunes and changed destinies for others, unraveled too many secrets of the heavens, responded to the fate of the dance of cheating, a lifetime without children or heirs. Transfer my guardianship to him, able to learn some Feng Shui techniques to ensure self-preservation when the calamity strikes. This can be considered repaying the Wan family's life-saving grace from back then. To ensure my safe and sound growth, Mom and Dad had no choice but to agree. Chen Mazi felt very happy. On the spot, I insisted on personally signing for my grandfather. You said you would also give me some good Feng Shui tips. Protect me as I grow smoothly. At night, he went to the old grave with my dad and dug up Grandpa's remains. Then we arrived at the circular peak of the back mountain. The mountains surrounding the city flow in a sleek, winding descent. The mountain range stretches and twists. It's like a turtle lying on the ground drinking water. My dad found it fascinating, just asking Chen Mazi what the Feng Shui here is about. He said the adder dragon has support here. The white tiger bows its head. The 3 mountains guard and form the shape of Xuanwu. As long as we bury the old man's remains here, it will greatly benefit the child's future. So my dad personally buried my grandfather's remains here, sealed the camp with vermilion and mercury. Scattering a handful of incense ash is enough to signify great achievement. And so I grew up steadily and peacefully. As agreed, I became Chen Mazi's adopted son. I would stay at his house for a while during every winter and summer vacation. During this time, he taught me a lot about Feng Shui and destiny principles. He Chen Mazi's health deteriorated day by day, until the year I turned 15. Chen Mazi's life has also come to an end. He left behind a few words of advice before his passing. Do our line of work. Remember not to intervene in others' karma. Once the night fire touches you, this will be your fate. Additionally, you have a Tong Zi destiny, destined to face 3 disasters and 9 difficulties. Birth is a calamity. Full moon calamity. Adulthood is another trial. You have to handle all of this on your own. Remember my words. Do good deeds without asking about the future. That night he passed away. Just leave me a handwritten copy of Feng Shui tricks. I was still young back then. They don't understand what the 3 disasters and 9 calamities are at all. I thought Chen Mazi was just gravely ill and speaking nonsense. What is destined by fate will inevitably arrive sooner or later. You have no choice but to believe. I remember May of my senior year in high school. A baseline test will be conducted. The school specially gave a day off. A few classes of students are setting up the exam room, but the heavens can be unpredictable. The clear sky suddenly turned into a thick blanket of dark clouds. It started pouring rain. However, I found a blood-red haze drifting in the west. The raindrops in the sky seemed inexplicably thick. It exuded a vibe of Saturn. There are quite a few mice in the storage room. At this moment, it's like a headless fly running around aimlessly. My heart suddenly skipped a beat because of my adoptive father's book Feng Shui Acrobatics. It is clearly documented. This is clearly an ominous sign of a great disaster. So I hurriedly found the homeroom teacher. Tell him he can't stay here. We need to change places quickly. The homeroom teacher never liked us poor performing students. Natural skepticism, and accused me of saying, "You kid just knows how to sit back. It's just a heavy rain, isn't it? What is there to be afraid of?" I wouldn't dare to retort in normal circumstances. The storm clouds outside the window are rolling more violently. This day's omen left me terrified. Hurry up and speak. Heavy rain is just a precursor to disaster. The real disaster is yet to come. The storage room is located on the back hill of the school. It has been abandoned for many years, mainly used to store tables and chairs. The wall has become very unstable due to years of neglect. Once a problem arises, it becomes particularly dangerous. The homeroom teacher was taken aback. But this did not make him feel any different. "Instead, you have the nerve to scold me." Suddenly, a thunderclap erupted in the sky. I was extremely anxious. Without bothering to argue, I pointed at the clouds above. "The blood cloud is about to arrive. It will be too late if you wait any longer. Teacher, I'm not joking with you. An young people should talk about science. Stop causing trouble." The homeroom teacher was also furious. "Since you said a sound came from the heavens, then why don't you tell me what will happen next? Earthquake, and the scale will definitely not be small." I spoke decisively. An earthquake is also referred to as dragon turning over in Feng Shui. The dragon energy is the foundation of mountains and river veins. Once the Earth's energy takes a risk, the mountains and rivers all carry the risk of being frivolous. The current celestial phenomena indicate that an earthquake will soon occur. But since we've come this far in the conversation, the homeroom teacher still doesn't believe. Don't say I'm being unreasonable, because earthquakes are not a trivial matter. I can only brace myself and stand up to argue with him. Life is of utmost importance. Can you handle it if something goes wrong? The homeroom teacher Wensheng said angrily, his face turning red. "Wanban, you probably don't want to graduate, do you? Dare to speak to me like this? The earthquake is imminent." But I can't persuade him. I had no choice but to grab a few close classmates and turn to leave, but just ran a short distance. A strong tremor shook the ground. It's too late. I still remember May 12, 2008. It was a disastrous day. We are only 200 kilometers away from Wenchuan. The tremor was particularly strong, but fortunately I ran out in advance. It's just a scrape on the back, nothing serious. I thought surviving a great disaster would bring good fortune. But little did I know this had drawn me into a terrifying conspiracy. That afternoon, I suddenly received a call from Liao Xiaoyu. Liao Xiaoyu is the class beauty of Class 3. I have had a crush on her since my second year of high school. But her family background is quite good. Always looks down on me. "Why did you take the initiative to contact me this time?" I answered the phone during the 11th round. On the phone, she said she wanted to invite me to dinner. I naturally did not refuse the warm hospitality of the class beauty. At the dining table, Liao Xiaoyu appeared to be deep in thought. "What's wrong?" I asked in confusion. Liao Xiaoyu paused and said, "Wanpen, I heard from a classmate that you were the first to discover the earthquake. At that time, I even had an argument with the teacher to take my classmate away. Is this true?" As soon as I heard this, I immediately started to boast. I started recognizing characters at the age of 3. At 5 years old, one could understand astronomy and geography. When Sheng Liao Xiao Yu rolled her eyes and said, "Since you enrolled so early, So why are your grades still so poor? These words struck a chord with my pain. I wouldn't say I'm not smart either, mastering the Feng Shui principles thoroughly. You can see that physical chemistry is straightforward. So I had to say, don't doubt it. When I was young, my adoptive father helped me shape my destiny. He said my fate is special. This lifetime is destined to lead an unconventional life. So I spend most of my energy studying Feng Shui. Liu Xiaoyu chuckled. Such impressive words. Can you help me with a favor? I quickly nodded and asked him what was the matter. Liu Xiaoyu's expression changed immediately. With red-rimmed eyes, slowly approached. After the last earthquake, it turned out that the ancestral grave of Liu Xiaoyu's family collapsed due to the earthquake during the ninth month. But his parents were busy with their business. I never had the chance to deal with it. Little did they know that this delay. His family encountered many strange events. First is Liu Xiaoyu herself. Recently, I've been dreaming about my grandparents who passed away many years ago. They were covered in blood, their clothes in disarray, crawling on the floor, pleading for my granddaughter to help me. At first, Liu Xiaoyu thought it was just a strange dream and didn't take it to heart. But the next day, on the third day, I still had similar strange dreams. I dreamt that my grandparents were crushed under a giant rock. Why can't I turn over? Later, Liu Xiaoyu told her family about the dream. Little did they know Liu's father had the same dream, talking about how the boss is impressed when I work late. I'd always see the deceased immortals crushed under the rubble, father and daughter together. It is estimated that the ancestral grave's Feng Shui was affected by the earthquake. Let the immortals buried underground find no peace. Kai Tuo dreamed and asked future generations for help. I wanted to find someone knowledgeable to take a look. It would be best to choose a polar treasure. But there are many scammers these days. Liu Xiaoyu has been indecisive. I just heard about my feet on the day of the earthquake. This is when he took the initiative to contact me. After listening, I suddenly understood. No wonder Liu Xiaoyu takes a detour every time she sees me. Jinji took the initiative to contact me. Emotions are meant to honor our ancestors. Feeling a bit down. But on second thought, it's nice to perform well in front of the one you love. Maybe after this incident, he will see me in a different light. Isn't this a good thing? I impulsively slapped my thigh and agreed on the spot. Little did I know this decision almost cost me my life. After saying goodbye to Liu Xiaoyu, I rushed back home. Find the guy who ate with my adoptive father before he passed away. A dragon tooth and an octagonal bronze lamp. The next day, I followed Liu Xiaoyu to the hill where his ancestral grave was located. That was a place called Leprosy Ridge. The terrain is very complicated. As soon as I got off the car, I followed the way Chen Mezi taught me to look up. Squinting, I surveyed the valley before me. You don't know until you look. Majin Ridge is indeed a blessed place. The aura at the mountainside is mesmerizing. At this moment, the sun has just risen. A streak of twilight is perfectly reflected on the background of the back mountain. This mountain formation is referred to as dragon raising its head in Feng Shui. It is excellent Feng Shui. At this moment, Liu Xiaoyu was already urging me. Wagon, hurry up! My family is still waiting up ahead. I put my thoughts aside and went into the mountains with him. Arrived at an old house at the foot of the mountain. He saw a composed middle-aged man approaching. No need to say, he is Liu Xiaoyu's dad. Grown up and round-faced. The sky is full. Such people are most suited for business. Seems to have quite the background. Liu's father first looked me up and down. Then, curiously, He looked at Liao Xiaoyu. "Daughter, this is—" Liao Xiaoyu immediately introduced me. "That his name is Wan, and it's my high school classmate. He's still a Feng Shui master. The reason for inviting him this time is for the Kaienfen. Isn't this nonsense?" Before Liao Xiaoyu finished speaking, Liao Fu furrowed his brows and shouted, "He clearly doesn't believe that I, at such a young age, understand Feng Shui and destiny. The flirtatious daughter is too unreliable. How could they entrust such a big matter to a novice?" Liao Xiaoyu argued on my behalf. "Wan is truly capable. He was the one who noticed the earthquake at school last time. If he hadn't insisted on bringing his classmates out, more people may die. This happened." Liao Fu visibly flinched. "Turn your face and look at me again." However, the words still carried a sense of distrust. "Young brother, you're still so young. Truly understand this. I was originally not in a good mood. I came all this way to help, and you immediately question my abilities. It's not surprising when you think about it differently. After all, as the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. It's understandable that he doesn't believe me. For Liao Xiaoyu's sake, I won't hold it against you. I know a little about Feng Shui. Let's go into the mountains and take a look." Liao's father reluctantly agreed, but that expression clearly showed they weren't taking me seriously. So I followed the Liao family into the deep mountains. Upon reaching the mountains, I took out the compass to observe the terrain. Points can be earned in 2 steps. First, sit on the mountain and observe the aura. Observe the direction of the natural mountains and rivers. Identify the necessary Feng Shui energy lines. After a while, I followed the direction indicated by the compass. Chose a spot. This place is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides and water on 1. Beneath my feet is a vast reservoir stretching several kilometers. The essence hides the wind. Stop by the water. There is a back alley of the dragon. But this mountain is too thin, unable to become a dragon. It can only be considered as the acupoint for relieving anxiety. This already counts as very good Feng Shui. Can provide the family with a lifetime of wealth and abundance. Next is the determination of the blood eye. I took out the dragon-seeking pool to feel the energy of the mountain top. But when I passed by a mound, I suddenly stopped, gazing at the burning octagonal copper lamp in hand, deeply shocked in my heart. How could there be a prime minister's cave here? The prime minister's cave is an ultimate treasure cave. Only those of great virtue can occupy this position. Such a treasure cave is rare to find in decades. Most Feng Shui is blind or rarely seen in a lifetime. How did I encounter this on my first trip out of the mountains? At first, I wasn't sure about my judgment. Hastily took out the octagonal copper lamp, placed the bronze lamp directly above that mound. Indeed, a surge of spiritual energy flowed away with the wind. The copper lamp's flame shot straight up. Mars resembles a little snake standing upright. I was astonished. Uncle Dai said the earth has extreme energy. Rising with the earth, I assassinate the turtle. The spiritual energy of this earth mound is rising. The octagonal copper lamp senses the earth's energy, burning more fully than usual. It means I stumbled upon a lucky opportunity by chance. I really found a rare good snow. At that moment, Liao Xiaoyu walked up behind me and said, "You've been pondering over the mound for a long time. What are you looking at? Have you chosen a good spot yet?" I nodded and said I chose it. He pointed to the mound of dirt beneath his feet and said, "This is it." Liao Xiaoyu looked down and immediately raised a question. "Isn't this just a pile of dirt? Could it be good snow?" I shook my head and smiled, saying, "You wouldn't understand this." This place gathers wind and energy. Setting snow here is definitely no problem. Hearing this, Lio's father looked on with a face full of doubt. This ground is full of holes. It's fine with the hive. The soil is still so loose. It really can come true. I nodded earnestly. Jiao Long rides the wind. Zuyuan is facing the reservoir, and there's a sound of soaring. The ancestral degree point is here. Future generations will surely thrive. As for the issue of loose soil, it must be caused by the dragon turning over. When digging a pit, it needs to be deeper. 7 feet and 3 inches is ideal. Liao Fu still had a look of disbelief on his face. The previous point about Feng Shui was also mentioned. But in recent years, my business has been getting worse and worse. Lost quite a bit of money. This Feng Shui trick of yours isn't necessarily reliable. In my youth, I could not tolerate others' doubts. So he spoke directly. You don't believe it, do you? I will prove it to you right away. After speaking, I walked over to the reservoir. I broke a willow branch that was about to cry. Quickly walked to the nearby snow spot he ordered. Insert the withered willow branches into the ground. Poured another cup of clear water on top. About half an hour later, a miraculous scene occurred. The withered willow branches slowly became full again, absorbed moisture from the soil, suddenly regained a hint of vitality. The originally drooping tender shoots slowly raised their heads. How did the withered branch come back to life? The scene before them left the Liao family in awe. Liao Xiaoyu was stunned and secretly asked me about the principle. I said quietly with a smug expression, "The willow branch may be wilted, but life still remains." Nurtured by the spiritual energy of Beixu, with enough moisture absorbed, it can naturally come back to life. That being said, looking at the willow branches that have revived so quickly, I also feel a bit puzzled. The study of reef navigation is indeed a treasure. But after all, it's not the true dragon vein. The withered branches and jade water exceeded my expectations. Is there something hidden in this mountain that I haven't noticed? I am still in a daze. Liao's father excitedly grabbed my hand. Little brother, I didn't realize you really have skills. You actually chose such good Feng Shui for the Liao family. Ancestors, bless us, ha. You go back first. Wait until I bury my ancestors, then I will definitely thank you properly. I want to say something more. Liao Xiaoyu pulled me away without a word. She smiled sweetly at me when she reached the foot of the mountain. Huan Yan, we owe it all to you this time. I still need to accompany my family to pay respects to my grandparents, so I won't see you off for now. You go back by yourself. I will contact you later." After saying that, she hurried back. "We just finalized the research and are about to sign the agreement. Why do I feel something is off?" The Liao family chose the timing for the grave signing too abruptly. It seems like there was preparation in advance. But I can't be bothered to delve deeper into her family's situation. He shook his head and walked down the mountain. I don't know if it's because the mountain wind is too strong. I felt a bit dizzy and had a headache as I descended the mountain, just about to rest for a while under the tree trunk. But I heard the sound of wheels approaching. I looked up. An elderly man in his 70s was riding an electric tricycle on the road. What a coincidence! I hurriedly ran up to stop the car and asked the elderly man to give me a ride. The old man gave me a strange look, but didn't refuse either. After I got in the car, he suddenly pointed towards the mountainside and asked me what someone was doing in the mountains. At that moment, I was a bit dazed, wiping my sweat and speaking. "It's nothing. Help a friend go into the mountains to check the Feng Shui." Hearing the sound, The old man suddenly stopped, suddenly glared at me and said, "How dare you come to a place like this for Feng Shui? What happened? The territory of leprosy is quite good. There is a rare opportunity to receive at the hillside." I said with some confusion, "So you pressed the acupoint on the mountainside." The old man's expression became even stranger. They glanced at me with a smile that was not quite a smile. "None people, you've gotten into big trouble." At that time my head was really hurting. I just felt that the old man spoke in a strange tone, so I ignored him. Uncle chuckled and said no more. He looked down at the Zonlong pond in my bag. There is an indescribable flavor hidden in the eyes. Arrived at the suburbs. The old man left me near a bus stop. Then a blank piece of paper was handed over. A string of phone numbers is written on the paper. "Young man, you are young and don't understand your body. Soon the big sister will fall. You and I are somewhat fated to meet. You take this. You will need it within 3 days." I confusingly received a note. Why is this old man cursing me for no reason? Out of politeness, I didn't say anything. Ever since I took the leprosy remedy, I've been feeling extremely dizzy. Hurry and hail a taxi to go home and sleep. But once home, I was horrified by the reflection of myself in the mirror. The reflection of me in the mirror has dull yellow skin and deep-set eyes. My neck has inexplicably swollen quite a bit. Unexpectedly, a scale-like plate grew on top, and the forehead was covered in black paint. It looks just like the face of a vengeful spirit. In shock, I quickly turned on the faucet to wash my face. But just as his hand touched the running water, Butt was scalded and jumped up. Just then Dad returned home. As soon as I opened the door, I saw myself frozen in front of the mirror, so scared that my legs trembled and my tongue felt tied. "Why then, what's wrong with you, kid?" "Then the tap water at home is really hot," I responded in a daze. My dad was stunned. He quickly walked over and turned on the faucet to test the water. "Where is it hot?" "You brat. What's going on with the neck?" My dad's voice trembled, sounding quite scared. I instinctively reached out to touch. I found small bumps on my neck. It still hurts hotly. I was instantly scared out of my wits. Fell to the floor with darkness in my eyes. That night I was taken to the emergency room. The duty doctor was stunned to see me in such a state. I suspect that I drank inferior counterfeit liquor. After a whole night of injections and Roman 4 drips, there was still no improvement. The next day I lay on the hospital bed, half dead. Heard the conversation between the doctor and Dad outside the emergency room. "I've never seen a situation like this with your son. His body has many important organs failing. We should hurry and contact for a transfer to another hospital. If it drags on, I'm afraid it will be in the next few days." The conversation is mixed with my mother's helpless crying. I really want to tell them that I'm not sick. Opened my mouth for a long time, but couldn't say a word. Yet my mind is surprisingly clear, constantly recalling where things went wrong. Why did such a strange illness suddenly appear? In my confusion, I suddenly remembered the old man from yesterday. He seems to have said that I will be unlucky in 3 days. At first, I thought that old man was just talking nonsense. But now that I think about it, he must have seen something in me. At that moment, I couldn't think much about it. Shaking the bed with all my strength. Mom and Dad rushed in when they heard the noise. Mom tightly grasped my hand, crying and shouting, "But how did you end up like this?" I try hard to open my mouth but can't make a sound. Fortunately, Dad saw through my intentions. "Squat down and ask me what I want to say." I stretched my hand into my pocket with the last bit of strength. Take out that crumpled white paper. At that moment, an old sigh drifted by my ear. At that moment, I felt a voice in my mind telling me, this time I might not survive. When I opened my eyes again, in a rundown straw hut, a strong smell of traditional Chinese medicine wafted through the nose. It made me cough nonstop. Thirsty. I don't know where I have been taken. Just feeling like the throat is scorched. One can't speak. After coughing for a while, I heard footsteps coming from outside. Strained to look up. On that day, the old man was standing at the door holding a medicine jar. With a crooked nose and squinty eyes, they smiled at me. Kid, you really have a lucky life. Missing the opportunity to study under the Prime Minister can still lead to this moment. It's quite a peculiar case. My forehead is buzzing. I don't understand what the old man means. The old man didn't explain either. He lifted a bowl of clear water from the bedside and fed me a sip. After drinking water, my dry, smoky throat felt a bit relieved. Lying half dead on the bed, he said, "Sir, where is this?" "Here is my home. Where else could it be? You clever boy, thinking of having your parents call me. I arrived just in time to pull you back from the gates of hell." The old man looked at me strangely. The eyeballs are squinting and rolling back and forth on me. He laughed twice, feeling something was off. I was very scared at that time. Struggling to get up, I asked where my parents were. "Don't move. The yang energy has been completely erased. Even a burp can choke you to death. Lie down honestly and listen to me." The old man sighed and placed his hand on my shoulder. "You are Chen Nazi's adopted son, Wan and right." I originally wanted to struggle. As soon as I heard this, I was stunned. Looking at the old man with surprise, he said in a weak voice, "Do you know my adoptive father?" Uh, he nodded ambiguously and muttered to himself, "Chen Mazi had already anticipated that you would have opinions when you turned 18. Wrote me a letter before passing away. I didn't expect to run into you here at Leprosy Ridge before I even set out. It's quite a coincidence, to say the least. Ango, how did you guess that something would happen to me in less than 3 days?" I asked in confusion. "You reckless fool. In a daze, I inadvertently signed up for the Chancellor's course. It's no surprise." The old man smiled slyly. "Put your hand on my forehead to check if my fever has gone down." I still don't understand. Listening to what he means. My misfortune all stems from the Feng Shui I chose for my home. While my mind was still somewhat clear, I struggled to retort. "What skills does the Chancellor possess? Why can't we click?" The old man glanced at me. "Silly boy, you have been deceived. The Feng Shui position of the back mountain of Mayfling is extraordinary. You are too young to see the subtleties. A blind cat stumbles upon a dead rat. It truly hit the essence of the Yang school of Yinlong studies. But the dragon vein is not something ordinary people are qualified to enjoy." I shook my head and hurriedly said, "There is no dragon study at Leprosy Ridge. I only ordered a delicate study. It's not related to the word dragon at all." An old man bumped my head. "Last month, there was an earthquake here that caused the mountain's energy to shift. The underground degree has changed significantly. Feng Shui changes every 30 years. Mayling Ridge was supposed to be a place where not even a bird could lay an egg. The earthquake caused the mountains to shift. It just happened to create a dragon summoning degree. You accidentally clicked it, which is why you faced divine retribution. Shortened their own lifespan. I don't understand this." Struggling to ask him, "Why will invoking the dragon study lead to divine retribution?" The old man sighed deeply. "Look at me and speak. You still talked so much about Feng Shui basics with Chen Mazi. However, little did they know that Longzhi was an official school, and official fortune represents the mandate of heaven. Using Feng Shui to seek destiny, of course, there will be retribution. I understood only half of it. The old man continued speaking. The Liao family ancestors were wealthy landowners. Old saying goes, wealth does not last beyond 3 generations. The Liao family's legacy was passed down to Liao's father. It has gone through 7 or 8 generations. Yet it remains eternally youthful. Do you know why? I shook my head in confusion. The old man explained again. Because this family received guidance from others. Every 30 years, the ancestral grave is relocated, seeking Feng Shui treasures to continue the ancestral energy. They say that the wheel of fortune turns. Feng Shui energy shifts every 12 years. Every 30 years brings a major change. That's why there are 30 years in the east of the river. The saying 30 years on the west bank of the river. The location of the Liao family's ancestral grave is excellent. We can only guarantee his family's aura for 30 years. Every generation would hire a Feng Shui master to help relocate the grave. This time, they set their sights on the Yinlong school located in the back mountain of Leprosy Ridge, planning to relocate the ancestral grave to be buried there. Yinlong studies, although the weakest form of dragon studies. At least it has the character for dragon. It is a rare treasure for official career success. The Liao family has no luck in officialdom. You have become more assertive in this chancellor's study. Let the descendants of this family enjoy a realm that does not belong to them. Now they have moved the ancestral grave to Leprosy Ridge, with the protection of dragon guiding studies. Heaven has no way to deal with them either. Karma will naturally fall upon those who study diligently. The old man paused. He lit a cigarette and took 2 dry puffs. He said while blowing smoke rings, the Liao family has had their eyes on Leprosy Ridge for quite some time, but no one dared to speak up for them. No knowledgeable Feng Shui master would dare to do this. I have no choice but to rely on you, you naive one. Deliberately provoking you. After listening to the old man's tale, my mind suddenly buzzed. I recall the day we went to Leprosy Ridge. Vice President Liao is picking a fight under the pretext of finding fault, doubting my Feng Shui abilities. He doesn't not trust me, just afraid I might see through it and refuse to learn. Deliberately used provocation. Thinking of this, I felt a chill run through me. The old man continued to chuckle oddly. The biggest taboo in the circle of connections is helping someone get promoted. Once the blood eye is activated, mild cases can lead to blindness and illness. Severe cases may lead to instant death. How did Chen Mazi die? You should still remember right. I closed my eyes, recalling the tragic state of Chen Mazi in his final years on his sick. Unconsciously, I started playing with the white pieces. Will I meet the same fate as him? But I am still young and don't want to die. I've already cursed the Liao family's ancestors for 18 generations in my heart. The old man looked at me and said again, "Don't panic." Chen Mazi had long foreseen that you would face this calamity by the age of 18. So you wrote to me early. Since I've caught up with you, nature will not let you die early. I feel a bit more relaxed. Still couldn't help but ask. That old man, before the Liao family seeks you out for acupressure, they also contacted me. I saw the way but didn't help. The next day I saw. You went into the mountains with them. So I deliberately waited for you at the foot of the mountain. I have mixed feelings in my heart. Just blame myself for being young, tricked into a trap by someone's sweet words. I think of Liao Zioyu deliberately crying in front of me like a rain-soaked pear blossom. The The resentment in my heart is better left unmentioned. The old man leaned in close to me with a smile. Kid, you made it like this. It's all because of the Lyo family. The only solution, it broke the dragon's vein. Otherwise, even if I have a miraculous remedy, cannot change either the fact that you are about to perish. I felt like I had grasped the last straw of hope. What should the old man do? The old man handed me a silk pouch. There is a Wutong wood sword inside. Tonight at midnight, you go to the reservoir at the foot of Leprosy Ridge. Find the reservoir's dark spot. Insert the Wutong wood sword into the yin eye. It can leak the energy of the treasure cave. Then I'll tell you what to do. Although it sounds incredible, but I still decided to go along with it. But right now my body is very weak. It requires someone to help support even when getting up. I can't handle this on my own. I can only ask the old man to take me with him. The old man didn't refuse. He smiled and said, "We are neither relatives nor acquaintances. I can help you if you want. But after success, you must promise to be my apprentice." I was taken aback. The old man shook his head. Now we are in the 21st century. Speaking of this industry gradually demonstrating, few young people are willing to work hard, learning the craftsmanship passed down from our ancestors, adding that I am a child of destiny. Destiny is full of twists and turns, born to be good material for the industry. I searched for half my life, haven't encountered a suitable heir, until Chen Mazi wrote me a letter. Shui has found a suitable candidate for me. Let me wait for you until you turn 18. If it weren't for valuing your fate, perfectly suited to inherit my craft. Who cares about your nonsense? I finished watching, while Chen Meizi is asleep, secretly stuffing a caterpillar into his pants. I felt so ashamed inside. Afterwards, the old man helped me to the courtyard to bask in the sun. They also smeared a lot of dark, greasy ointment on my neck. They say it can cure my ailments. I am outside in the yard. I see my parents, who have long been worn out from crying. Through conversation, only just learned that I had been in a deep sleep for 3 days. The old man tried every possible way, just pulled me back from the gates of hell. I am deeply grateful. At the request of my parents, preparing to bow to the old man. The old man pressed against my forehead. Don't make me kneel. The initiation ceremony hasn't taken place yet. These few sounds will be owed for now. Once you enter my door, your bond with your parents has also been severed. Tong Zi Ming is also known as the heavenly calamity lonely star, destined to guard against others and oneself. After becoming an adult, you must move out of the house. Can't live with my parents. Otherwise, it won't be good for anyone. Mom couldn't help but tear up. It's still my dad who understands things better. Smoke half a pack of cigarettes. Said that the son has grown up. In the end, one has to venture out into the world. It's fine to live apart, as long as he is safe and sound. I also admit it, after sending off my parents. That night I set off with the old man. Taking advantage of the darkness, I went back to Leprosy Ridge. On the way up the mountain, I said to the old man, "Elder Huan, my master's surname is Huan, the 4th child in the family. Nickname Huang Sai. The school I chose is clearly halfway up the mountain. Why don't you take me to the grave? But I have to go to the reservoir to look for something hidden." Huang Sai tapped me on the back of the head. The mountains and rivers are all connected. The place I consulted for Feng Shui is Yin Yang Academy. We need to break the Feng Shui here. You must find the Yin Eye, the same dragon vein. It runs through the entire leprosy ridge. The positions of yin and yang are different. The places we go are naturally different. I nodded in confusion. After breaking this dragon summoning technique, what will happen to the Liao family? What do you think? He has a half smile. He harnessed the power of Feng Shui, enjoyed the wealth of so many generations. It's time to repay the debt. Previously, they were protected by Feng Shui. Heaven's punishment does not fall upon me. Once the ancestral grave's Feng Shui is ruined, so the retribution will erupt on this generation. The next match will be very tragic. I couldn't bear to listen any more, recalling the moments spent with Liao Xiaoyu at school, whose heart doesn't hold a white moonlight. Although he took advantage of me, I don't want to bring misfortune to his entire family. I'm running out of time. There are still thoughts of romance and affection. Hurry up. Master Huangzi noticed my thoughts. A cold breath huffed out from the nostrils, pushed me impatiently, pointing at a depression on the shaded side of the reservoir. There is a 1-foot wide opening. In front is the yin eye of the Yinlong cave. Just do what I say, unless you don't want to live. There is no light in the mountains. It's hard to walk in the dark. Fortunately, the moonlight is very bright. I walked to the water area holding the flashlight. I can't help but feel a bit timid. I can imagine that I am almost next door. Bai and Heng made up his mind. Regardless of everything, they found the 1-foot wide opening. After lighting the copper oil lamp, I threaded the light cord with a red line. A little bit fell into the hole. Water zone semi-dry. The standing water below has long stopped flowing. Only a dark, oily opening remains. Wind occasionally blows in from inside the cave. The wind blows endlessly over the mountain of oil lamps, pressed by the cold wind into a dot the size of a green bean. It looks especially hazy. At that moment, I was completely confused. Here it is. Yinlong Cave, the Shadow Eye. How can we break its Feng Shui? Just when I was at my wit's end, but saw below the crevice. A small mound rises. The soil is loose. It seems like something is subtly crawling. Because it was getting dark, I couldn't see clearly. Quickly switch to the flashlight and shine it over there. Soon the loose earthen wall began to collapse, poking the snake's temperament under that beam, occasionally making sounds from the mouth. Hissing sound. How did a snake appear? My scalp tingles. I was instantly terrified of snakes since I was little, frozen in fear. Fortunately, the flashlight was bright enough, shining on the little snake's head. The little snake cannot adapt to such bright light. Lying still on the ground as well. Just as I hesitated, the little snake suddenly raised its head. I noticed. This snake is different from ordinary venomous snakes. Flat skull. There are unexpectedly 2 bumps on my forehead. At first glance, it resembles the legendary tales. Lanjiao, suddenly filled with confusion, a bizarre thought sprang to mind. Is it possible that this little snake? It is the legendary manifestation of the dragon vein. My heart is already turned upside down. I don't know how to describe the shock in my heart. Suddenly, Master Huangzi rushed in from behind. A gentle push on my back. Counted, still not making a move. His loud shout startled me, causing my whole body to shiver. My mind went blank. Unconsciously grasped the Wutong sword from the green pouch. Gathered all the strength. The little snake slithered past. Little snake got scared. Suddenly, jumping up from the gutter. At the same time, I felt a current of wind flowing. A sudden slap to my face. This wind is particularly cold. Let me hold back a sound. Couldn't help but play with the white pieces. The body swayed. I can't believe I'm a bit confused. But my hands did not stop moving. Still relying on instinct, I swung my sword. Wu Tong Jian is impartial and fair. I cut off the little snake's tail. Suddenly, his tail broke off, struggled even harder. In the silent night sky, a strong wind suddenly blew in. Even the leaves and wild grass were uprooted, flipping endlessly in the air. I was caught by this cold wind. He fell to the ground. I don't know why. Suddenly felt very cold. At the same time, mist began to rise in the reservoir. Dense fog enveloped the area, like rolling waves. In the distance, I heard a girl sobbing softly, continuously moving toward the reservoir. The eerie and sinister atmosphere was already evident. It's the middle of the night. How could the sound of a girl crying be heard in the desolate mountains? Could it be that one from earlier? The little snake whose tail was injured by me. I broke out in a cold sweat from fear, straining to open my eyes and take a look. The little snake has disappeared without a trace. The surroundings are filled with death. Silence is terrifying. Only the cold wind lingers in the shadows. It feels as if everything just now wasn't real. I am still in a daze. Master Huangzi is striding over. Don't scold me. Don't waste time. Hurry up and break open the underground passage. I groggily got up. Raise the Wutong sword high above your head. Both hands exerted all their strength. Deeply thrust into the water channel's gutter. I don't know if it's just my illusion. The Wutong sword had just penetrated deep underground. I just heard the sound of air escaping. The wooden sword cracked. Open a fist-sized hole. White steam puffed out. Like a deflated balloon. The raised mounds of earth. It visibly deflated. At this moment, I doubt whether I'm experiencing hallucinations. Master Huangzi let out a chuckle. Pull me out of the gutter. He chuckled while stroking his beard. Things have happened. The yin I was torn open by the Wutong sword. The spiritual energy beneath the treasure cave has departed. The aura of the Liao family will also fade away. First, leave the Wutong sword here. Don't pull it out. Come back with me. After saying that, he grabbed my hand and ran down the mountain. It's strange to say. Since I thrust the Wutong sword into the pit, I immediately felt refreshed and invigorated. The brain is no longer foggy. It feels like the strength I lost has returned. I walk much more briskly now. Master Huangzi explained. This is a normal phenomenon. The hidden dragon cave has already been breached by you. As the Earth's energy leaks away, the Liao family's official fortunes will also completely decline. So this is the punishment from heaven. Will not continue to descend upon you. However, he dragged the ending sound out very long. The story is half told, and closed her mouth, still feeling unsatisfied. I find it particularly puzzling. Did you guess that there is more to Lord Huang's story? Hurry and ask him what it is. Huangzi shook his head, did not continue this topic. Instead, you asked me, why were you stunned in front of the water area just now? Still unwilling to take action. I collected my thoughts. Hurry up and tell about the little snake you just saw. After hearing this, Master Huangzi fell into silence, thoughtfully stroking his chin, suddenly glanced at me. That gaze is full of meaning. It makes me feel uneasy. Can you see him? It's also a kind of fate. This time you injured his tail. Although it was out of self-preservation and forced necessity, yet, in an invisible way, a debt was incurred. The future will eventually be repaid. I, Zhang the monk, am completely baffled. Hurry up and ask back. Grandfather, what exactly is that snake? That thing is not a snake. Master Huangzi shook his head vigorously. but refused to say anything more. The footsteps hurriedly lead me down the mountain. My mind is still in doubt. She kept asking him a few questions. Huang Sai sped up with me, shaking his head and saying, "Wherever the dragon veins are concentrated, there will definitely be a gathering of spiritual beings. The snake you see, it is merely the product after it takes form. It's useless to say so much to you now. Waiting for the right moment, you will naturally understand." I somewhat understand, but also don't. Patted his forehead. I found that my forehead wasn't as hot as before. The body feels particularly relaxed. Suddenly he smiled with joy. "Grandfather, the method you taught really works. I'm almost better." Master Huang Si smiled darkly, gave me a strange look. "Don't celebrate too early, although you broke the dragon's den. After all, I am still entangled in the Liao family's fate. The day of repayment will come sooner or later. I feel particularly confused. The Liang cave was ignited by my own hands. Now I have personally broken the dragon's cave again. In this way, at most, we owe each other nothing. Why are we getting involved with cause and effect again?" Master Huang Si gave me a meaningful glance. "Say, if you don't press this acupoint, the Liao family will not gain any official fortune. Now, you destroyed this hole again." The retribution for the Liao family arrived earlier than expected, not only perplexing future generations. It could even lead to the destruction of the entire family. Nature will carry another layer of cause and effect. This is the calamity of the Liao family. It is also your fate. One day you will understand. I think I understood," he said while touching the back of his head. "Do you mean to say I fought for my life, personally broke the dragon's cave, although freed from a major karma, but it broke the dragon's hole, led to the Liao family's misfortune. Thus they were affected by another small cause and effect. Is that right?" Master Huang Si smiled darkly. "Tap lightly twice on my forehead. Say, 'So teachable. No wonder Chen Mezi likes you so much.'" I secretly curled my lip. Yet deep down, I don't quite believe in Master Huang Si's theory. Things like fate and destiny. It's truly mystical. I couldn't understand at all back then. I only thought he was just putting on a show. Before dawn, we returned to Master Huang's residence. After this ordeal, I have also learned a lesson. A treasure cave cannot be easily accessed. Feng Shui offers too many opportunities. It seems that in the future, I really can't casually help others choose a burial site anymore. Fortunately, the body recovers quickly, the afternoon of the day after tomorrow. The blisters on my face have mostly disappeared, peeling away an old layer, revealing fair skin. It's even smoother than before. I learned only to abandon it. That place wouldn't develop for decades to come. Soon it will turn into a wasteland. These are all my sins. To make up for these mistakes, from now on, we must do more good deeds. Only then can we counteract the backlash from cheating. There is more. Your fate is too fragile, kid. The so-called lone eagle does not last long. There are still many unfortunate things to come. To live safely until old age, you must learn more skills from me." I nodded vigorously. Things happening right now. It perfectly validated what Chen Mazi said in her lifetime. It seems I am indeed a natural-born failure. Tong Zi Ming, since the adoptive father left a last wish. I want to take the emperor as my master. Of course, for my own good. I accepted my adoptive father's arrangements. Immediately performed the kowtow ceremony for fourth prince. Little did I know, the old man reached out and pressed his hand against my forehead. Don't make me kneel." Seeing me, my expression turned cold. He was showing off his shamelessness again. He, the strange laugh said, "Do you know what I do? I can't wait to become an apprentice." I shook my head and said I didn't know. But since this is the arrangement of my adoptive father, I will certainly obey. Moreover, to take you as my master can save my life. I have no reason to refuse." The fourth prince showed a hint of disdain, still wearing a nonchalant smile. "Let's not rush. Before entering, you need to meet 3 conditions. I won't take on disciples casually. I am filled with frustration. Ask him 3 things." The fourth prince smiled without answering. "You haven't fully recovered yet. I will rest here for a while. Let's talk about it after you recover." The fourth prince arranged it this way. I have no choice but to accept, but secretly pondered in my heart. This little old man has such a strange temper. He's even more unpredictable than Chen Mezi. I don't even know how to worship under his guidance. Is it service or? They say that capable people have a big temper. I hope this gentleman is not too difficult to get along with. In the following days, always living in Prince Huang's house. His home is located near the outskirts of the city. The location is quite remote. Usually, there aren't many people passing by. I also enjoy being leisurely. In my spare time, I began to research my adoptive father, the Feng Shui notebook left behind, encountering questions I don't understand. He hurried to the fourth prince's study to seek advice. The days are simple yet fulfilling. After spending a few days together, I found that this old man is indeed very obedient. He locks himself in his study all day, fiddling with something unknown. Where did the bottles and jars escape from? These jars look very old at first glance. Most of them are antiques. There are still red marks on it, writing intricate red talismans. Just looking at it feels eerie. I have questioned him more than once. The origin of these bottles and jars. But every time he spoke, it was always evasive. Getting annoyed by the questions, I started to scold people with a stern face. "Let me roll into the shade. Stay here. Don't disturb your own tranquility." Moreover, he forces me to drink a strange herbal soup every day. I don't know about this medicinal soup. How is it actually brewed? The flavor is particularly rich, and it's extremely bitter, still exuding a scent of a strong, sour stench. It feels like wearing smelly socks for over 10 days, fermenting in a jar. After the socks grow fuzz. The juice that has been squeezed out again. The taste was absolutely disgusting. However, the effect is quite good. I have been fed soup medicine by him for over 10 days straight. Not only has the spirit fully recovered, even physical strength has improved to some extent, become strong and powerful, can run several miles in one breath. Several days have passed again. Almost half a month has passed. I started to miss home. I had just turned 18 that year, growing up with the company of my parents. It's the first time I've been away from home for so many days. I've been thinking about the pork rib soup that my mom makes. Geomancer told me, if there's nothing else going on, try to go home as little as possible. Even if you return home, don't stay for long. Since I turned 18, you must learn to live independently. I asked him why in confusion. Lord Huangzi explained. The fate of a child is inherently that of a white tiger's heart, born to guard against others and oneself. The closer the relationship, the more I want to keep a certain distance from you, under the protection of your adoptive father. Finally made it past 18 years old. If after adulthood, continue living with my parents, you can't be sure about your parents. It will also share your misfortunes. Okay, although unclear, why is my fate so unfortunate? However, my adoptive father did say similar things during his lifetime. Master Huangzi also keeps emphasizing this point to me. I plan to continue staying with Master Huang, after mastering the skills, to repay the of my parents' upbringing well. Little did they know, Lord Huangzi looked at them with disdain. Who said I would take you in? Before, I asked you to recuperate with me, just to help you adjust your muscles and bones. Now your body has already recovered. How could I possibly? Staying stubbornly despite the situation. I was foolish. Didn't you say so, old friend? Will you take me as your disciple? He instead laughed. Serious talk. I said I would take you as my disciple. Before this can happen, you still have to meet three conditions. Even if I accept you, it doesn't mean I have to provide for you. The young boys eat away my wealth. You must learn to live on your own. I suddenly got fierce. Imagine a freshly turned adult, the young man in his late teens, just under 2 months away from adulthood, neither education nor survival skills, suddenly thrown into the furnace of society. There isn't even a meal in sight. How should I continue living? Master Huangzi smiled darkly. That's your business. It's not my concern to worry about. There is one more thing. Finding a master to learn from is not without cost. From now on, you have to pay 30,000 in tuition fees each year. How much? 30,000. I can't stand it anymore. You should know. That was in 2008, just as the beautiful thorny crisis broke out. At the most critical moment, an unprecedented financial tsunami, sweeping the globe, for many cities' finance, brought a devastating blow. In our small 18th-tier city, ordinary migrant worker worked tirelessly for a whole year. Even with a guaranteed income, I can't save up 30,000 yuan. This old bastard is really too dark. The optical fee is going to be 30,000. Why doesn't he go rob? Huangzi shook his head and swayed. What if you don't want to learn the skills? The old man doesn't force it either. Anyway, you carry the same fate as your child. Soon we will head to Damei. Don't learn my skills. Just wait for the neighbor. I cried with a mournful face. Ask him if the tuition can be a bit cheaper. Your price is too steep, more expensive than college tuition. He spoke in a tone that brooked no discussion. You think 30,000 a year is too expensive. Do you know how many people, carrying the mountains of gold and silver, are you coming to me to become my apprentice, and I won't accept you? I'm doing this for Chen Mazi's sake. Only then will I teach you. If you don't want to study, then forget it. I am at a loss whether to cry or laugh. Please don't be angry, my dear. How about this? Tuition fees will be owed for now. I promise within a year. I will definitely gather 30,000 to honor you. Master Huang's face immediately cleared up, said with a smile, This is what you said yourself. Let me establish a phrase first. You must rely on your own abilities. Earned tuition fees. Never should one rely on others. After signing, my expression became even more bitter. I originally planned to sneak back home, ask my parents for money, take that little old rascal. You have long seen through my thoughts. But for the sake of survival, I can't manage that much either. Selling oneself, sign with your fingerprint, thinking about what comes next, where to go to make money. Master Huangzi saw how difficult it was for me, slowly and methodically pointed out a path for me. I know a famous merchant. This guy specializes in killing activities. You can go seek refuge with him first, as long as you are willing to put in the effort. Earn some tuition money. It's still not a problem. I'm sorry, but I cannot provide the content of As It Is a specific title or work. If you have any other questions or need assistance with something else, feel free to ask. Master Hewing said seriously, I want you to help me catch a snake. Uh, I stared in disbelief. We never talked about him. My first test. It's actually this. I have been afraid of snakes since I was little, especially during the full moon. I was also plotted against by Chiang Tai Nai, although what happened at that time, no impression. You can hear your parents talking. Leads me to snakes. Created a significant psychological shadow. This old rascal. Truly not picky at all. Knowing that I'm afraid of snakes, you purposely assigned me this task. Aren't you just trying to make me look foolish? Hewing Sai shook his head and said, What's there to be afraid of with snakes? If you can't even handle this little fear, can't overcome it, what qualifications do you have? Inherit my craft. Additionally, I want you to catch it. It's not an ordinary snake, but rather burn the fan. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Burning fan. This kind of thing. Suddenly confused. What is a fan burning? A sudden expression appeared on his face. A sinister smile. Cautiously, they approached me and said, Old society. People like to build tombstones. Built in a relatively low-lying area. This terrain, once experiencing a heavy rainstorm, the grave will be destroyed, causing sinking. Sunken coffin often spends time in the water, will form a kind of unique humid environment. There is a type of snake. It specifically grows in such an environment, living by feasting on the flesh of the dead. Lay snake eggs in the corpse's abdomen. Use the corpse as the warm bed for hatching baby snakes. This snake is called Fan Shan, also called eagle snake, because I grew up eating human flesh. So the toxicity is particularly severe. The first challenge I give you, just help me with it personally. Get a few snake eggs from the graveyard. I listened until my scalp tingled. They've all cursed. Serious douse. Hewing Sai is an old pervert. Why are you randomly grabbing at the grave fan? Aren't you doing this on purpose to mess with me? Lord Hewing's face turned pale. The task has already been communicated to you. It's entirely up to you whether to catch or not. Despite cursing inwardly, he has repeated it countless times. I can only compromise for the greater good. Ku Ahadao, grandfather, where do you want me to go to get a grave fan? This then, this is the first time I've heard of it. Absolutely not. He overturned my words from scratch, then handed me another note. There is a phone number written above. You found the owner of this number. Just say it's my introduction. He will tell you where to catch a grave fan. All right. Take a note. I turned and walked towards the city center, although Master Hewing repeatedly instructed. I should minimize contact with my parents as much as possible. It's the first time leaving home. I still can't help it. Missing Dad and Mom. A taxi pulled up by the roadside. I plan to go home to visit them for a bit. It's already 2 p.m. when I get home. Mom is washing dishes in the kitchen. Seeing me quietly run back home, suddenly rushed over excitedly, hugging me, unable to utter a word. That's great. Finally recovered from the illness. It seems that Master Hewing didn't deceive us. Dad heard the noise, running out of the bedroom. But I wasn't as excited as Mom on my face. He hesitated and asked me how I got back. Previously, Master Hewing had reminded the elderly couple, to ensure that I grow up smoothly. Fathers and sons should meet as little as possible. Dad is a superstitious person, combined with my childhood experiences. deeply convinced of such a statement. I said it's nothing. I just miss you all. Just go home and take a look. Dad really loves his son. Rub my head. She easily opened the zipper of her bag. Hand me a stack of money. You say you are now an adult. Learn to be independent in the future. Keep this little money on you. Can also respond to emergencies when necessary. My nose is slightly runny. I bowed solemnly to my parents, turned and left this familiar home. Walking out of the community gate, I immediately took out the note given to me by Geomancer. I dialed the number according to the instructions. The bell rang twice. That side quickly connected. A middle-aged man approached. The sound of Yunai's lute voice. "Hello, who are you looking for? Is it Master Jiu? My name is Wan Pen. Geomancer introduced me to come seek refuge with you." The man let out a howl. "Oh, it's Saya Wang. Fourth Master has mentioned you to me. Where are you?" I said I am still in my hometown. "How can I find him?" The other party gave me an address. "My shop is located in Jinxi." I immediately went to the passenger center, taking the county bus to the address he mentioned. Jinxi is located in Giju province. It's not too far from my hometown, approximately a 2-hour drive. I was about to contact the other party after getting off the car. Suddenly, someone patted me on the shoulder. Lost in thought, I turned around. I saw a young man about the same age as me, standing under the billboard with a big smile. Du Yang. I was greatly surprised. Du Yang is my high school classmate. We have a good relationship, but the grades were particularly poor. Still always likes to skip school and surf the internet. The school aims to ensure the graduation rate. He was persuaded to leave early on. I didn't expect to move to Jinxi. Du Yang chuckled and said, "Long time no see. Why did you come to Jinxi too?" I hurriedly explained. "I came to Jinxi to find someone." He let out a cry, pat my shoulder, invited me to sit by the roadside for a while. I just wanted to make an excuse that I had something else to do. But then Ju Yang said, "You just came from Mahjong County. Do you know about the situation at Liu Xiaoyu's home, the class flower?" Hearing this name again, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. A sudden wave of irritation. What's wrong? Zhang Yang is still unclear. The grudge between me and the Liu family. Sighing and shaking their head to themselves. You still don't know, right? A big incident happened at Liu Xiaoyu's home. 2 people died within half a month. I heard even his dad is in jail. When did it happen? I was surprised. Geomancer once said, after breaking the dragon's vein in the earth, the Liu family is bound to have bad luck. But I didn't expect this family to be so unfortunate. Arrived so quickly, during my time of adjusting my body emotions. They have already received their comeuppance. Zhang Yang said, "Not long ago, Liu Xiaoyu's father has been in business for many years, always thinking about wanting to enter politics. He privately maintained many connections and activities. Who would have thought I'd be so unlucky? Just as Liu was sent out, the person behind you. It was discovered by the investigation team. The other party seeks self-preservation. During the interrogation process, took the initiative to disclose Liu Xiaoyu's father's bribery, because the amount is huge. The next day, he was arrested. He was just caught not long ago. Liu Xiaoyu's mother also had an accident, bumped into the curb while driving, due to excessive speed, together with the person and the car, jumped into the water archive. When it was pulled up, the body has long since gone cold. Next, the unfortunate one is Liu Xiaoyu's brother. It is said to be due to illegal gambling, reported by someone to evade capture, choose to jump out the window, who knew it was just a coincidence, just happened to fall right in the middle of the iron fence. Iron spikes on the fence, at least 5 or 6 centimeters deep, stabbed him right through, leaving him cold to the core. A well-to-do family. In the blink of an eye, it was all lost. It is said that Liu Xiaoyu could not bear the psychological blow, not long after, just because of mental issues. Moved into the hospital. Afterward, the events unfolded. Yang Yang didn't know either, just through a few classmates. He has been found out now. The next match will be quite tragic. After I listened. It has been silent for a long time. I don't even know what it feels like inside. This matter, it truly taught a lesson. Feng Shui nurtures people. It can also harm people. One should not harbor greedy thoughts. Otherwise, it harms both others and oneself. In the end, there is no good outcome. After the event, Jiang Yang. He also invited me to his house as a guest. I shook my head and refused. Urgent matter. We should find the person introduced by Huang Zai as soon as possible. Complete the first test he assigned. After sending off Jiang Yang, I dialed that number again, following the other party's instructions. I walked into a strange street. Across the street, there was an old, shabby shop. A person is standing at the door, wearing fraught glasses, a wealthy, dashing middle-aged man, dressed up with a slick hairstyle and heavy makeup, wearing a flashy plaid shirt, leaning against the doorframe, picking his nose. I guess this is the person I've been looking for. Hastily walked over and asked, "Brother, are you surnamed Zhu?" The other party glanced at me. A greasy smile immediately spread across his face. He said with a smile, "You must be Xiao Wan. I've been waiting for you." After saying this guy, "Just stretch out the hand that just picked your nose." Familiarity led them to pat me on the shoulder. I felt a chill run through me. "Hurry and hide. Shall we not speak of Wang? Just call me Wang and—" The middle-aged man chuckled darkly, also gave a self-introduction. He said his surname is Zhu. His name is Zhu Bapi. I was so shocked that I almost dropped my eyeballs on the ground. What? Zhu Bapi. Lao Zhu is skilled at handling matters alone. It's not the 8 of the 8 skins. It is the 8 of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My parents are quite fertile. It's my turn. I am ranked 8th. So that's why this name was chosen. I couldn't help but laugh. This naming method is truly bizarre. Very soon, I entered his shop with Lao Zhu. The shop is arranged quite neatly. Aromas from the depths of the sea, dressed in an antique style. The counter was filled with all kinds of vases and decorative items. A wide variety of everything is available, but the price is very high. There are almost no less than 1,000. There are even a few vases. The price is over 10,000. I secretly clicked my tongue. Say, brother, why is the stuff at your place so expensive? Is anyone going to buy it at such a high price? Zhu Bapi laughed, his eyes gleaming, narrowed into a slit. Say, little brother, don't underestimate the goods in my store. Those few vases. But these are all antiques from many years ago. I let out a groan. Looking down low, the microwave oven specifically has no sound. Then I talked about the purpose of my visit. The story isn't finished yet. He interrupted me with a wave of his hand. Huang Lao is on the phone. Tell me about your story. At such a young age, such a rare destiny, can live past 18. It can be considered a miracle. It's time to find a skilled master to learn from properly. You are destined to be connected with this line of work. Learn more skills. The future path can be walked a little longer. However, Huang Lao is a person who will not easily accept disciples. It won't be easy for you to be defeated by him." I nodded. Master Huang Zi said, "Can you help me find Fen Shan?" "Completed the first trial, right?" Lao Zhu smiled, shaking his head and saying, "Of course. I am a famous merchant. This bowl of rice is all that matters. Anything related to the supernatural. Everyone can lend a hand." I hurriedly said, "That's great. Could you please show me the way? I want to dig up the burning fan early so I can report back." Lao Zhu remained non-committal, gave me another glance, and said, "Finding a fan to burn is not easy. You still don't understand anything. It's too dangerous to go empty-handed like this. This test seems simple, to successfully capture the burning fan. But it's not easy." I saw a troubled expression on his face. Probably thought it over a bit. "Is it going to cost anything for old Zhu to guide us?" He nodded. He shook his head again. "The cost issue is just one part of it. The most crucial point is, the burning fan is particularly catching. You won't find such a creature in ordinary flames. These days, cremation is popular in the market. It is rare to encounter a complete buried corpse. We can only go deep into the mountains and forests to find those abandoned graves, and it may not even be certain." I pondered for a moment. I feel this makes a lot of sense. Cremation is now in vogue. Usually, a complete corpse is not buried, unless it's someone with no relatives or connections. The homeless man who had no one to take care of his affairs after death. The conditions for burning the pigsty are very harsh. It's not guaranteed that digging open the furnace will reveal the fan. It seems that Master Huang's test for me is indeed quite challenging. But I won't give up so easily. Soon I steeled myself to speak. Even so, I must find the burning fan. Only by worshipping him as a corpse do I have a way to survive." Lao Zhu said with a grin, "Chen, I like ambitious young people. However, I will need a service fee if I'm going to lead the way. You need to pay a fee first." I asked him how much he wanted. Old Zhu smiled and spread out his 5 fingers. I said to myself, "It costs 500 just to show the way. This is way too expensive." Luckily, Dad gave me some sponsorship money before I left. No need to worry about life for now. I nodded immediately. "Let's just go with 500. When are we leaving?" Lao Zhu unhappily withdrew his hand. "Brother, you misunderstood. It's not 500, it's 5,000. I was so shocked that I almost jumped up. Damn, it's so dark here." Lao Zhu, however, spoke with conviction. "It's not easy to run a business. Moreover, it's a desolate mountain wilderness. It's not easy to find a grave for the dead. No one else would do this business except for him. That being said, 5,000 yuan is not a small amount after all." I flipped through the cash in my pockets. "I'd guess it's definitely not enough. I had to ask him to give me a better price." Lao Zhu said impatiently, "Okay, for the sake of Huang Lao's reputation, I'll give you a 20% discount." Who made the older brother kind-hearted? "Get ready. Let's go up the mountain." The location of the grave mound is usually very remote. Because this thing is Yenwu, I don't like living in places filled with sunlight. Lao Zhu led me into a patch of the small forest that has been neglected for many years, crossed a few dirt mounds. In front lies a vast expanse of primeval forest. It is necessary to explain this. Near the border of Ziyai, Chai'an, and Gizhu, going south, is the legendary Miaojiang 10,000 mountains. Nearly 20 ethnic minorities live in this area. Most of them are descendants of the Mayo people, with the unique geographical environment, created many different funeral customs. The country advocates for cremation, but this rule not suitable for minority ethnic regions. Many ethnic minorities still maintaining the custom of burial. This also allows many to eat. A place called Yingu Zui. A dirt mound appeared ahead. It's been a long journey, and now the sky is dark. In the depths of the mountains, the sun is about to set. The valley is shrouded in darkness. Crows occasionally cawed from the wilderness. The sound of quacking. The forest is dark and shadowy, accompanied by a desolate forest, filled with a sinister scent. Honestly, I'm a bit hesitant now. Yinguzuo Mountain has a flat terrain. Towering mountains rise on both sides. There is a cliff on the left side, the place we are in, located on the shady side of the mountain. Middle-aged people can't see the sunlight. The mountain ridges twist and turn. Like a long, narrow centipede was a hidden valley, just corresponding to the place where the centipede opens its mouth. According to the description in Feng Shui acrobatics, this is called Jin Land. It is very inauspicious to be buried here. It may even affect future generations. I really can't understand. Who would bury someone at this grave? Facing my doubts, Lao Zhu shook his head and said, I didn't know you understood Feng Shui, Zio Wang. That's right. Yin Zui Gu is a brother. A normal person would never keep a deceased loved one buried here, at the foot of the earth mound ahead. Those buried are all people who died unjustly. Over the years, an environment has formed, a uniquely special burial mound. Only in this situation, in the chaotic graveyard filled with dark energy, only then can a grave fan appear. All right, the environment of this cursed place. It is indeed quite sinister. Even though I was at that time, haven't learned much real skill yet. But looking at the terrain of the hills, it scared me so much that my heart raced. Many things. You can't really say why, but it just makes me feel uncomfortable inside. Beneath this hilltop, gathering of Yinkai, the sky had not yet turned completely dark. It's already drifting away. A veil of white mist shrouded the area. The wind howled ominously. It makes people feel uneasy inside, stepping on the decayed twigs and fallen leaves. The rustling sound occasionally echoed. It gives a forest-like atmosphere. After passing the earth mound, I soon arrived at the graveyard that Lao Zhu mentioned. Everywhere are barren graves. Most don't even have gravestones. On the 100-square-meter earthen mound, there are densely clustered mounds of graves. A chilling wind blew through. It sends chills down one's spine. Lao Zhu told me some taboos about grave digging. Then he lost a shovel, staying far away. I looked back at him helplessly. You said you wouldn't help. He rolled his eyes in frustration. Said they took the money. Only responsible for leading the way. Moreover, the test assigned by Huang Lao. It must be done by my own hands. One cannot delegate to others. Still speaking so beautifully. Actually, I noticed it too. Lao Zhu is just like me. I don't like the environment here. It seems like I should ask him for help. There is no hope left. Imagine a young man who has just turned 18, forced to dig graves in the deep mountains. What kind of experience would it be? But I had no choice. Only the crisp sound of saliva in the palm of my hand. Find a relatively low-lying burial mound. Try to give birth. This mound is very low. It had just rained a few days ago. Half of the earth mound is soaked in standing water. It is very suitable for the growth environment of the coffin fan. I'm giving birth. Muttering that it's strange, don't blame it. Just dug down 1/2 meter. Giving birth resulted in a hard object being cut. It must be the coffin board of a corpse. Listening to the sound of the coffin colliding with the iron shovel. Jenken sound. My heart also trembled violently. To know, this is grave robbing. Looking back at my little half of life. Never been this close before. Touched a stranger's corpse. A tingling feeling spread throughout my body, shaking all over like I was electrocuted. I stopped my actions. Light the prepared yellow wax candle. Scattered another handful of yellow paper on the ground. Kneeling respectfully at the grave. Both hands are intent, constantly murmuring in the heart. Please don't blame me. I had no choice either. Just entered the mountain to dig a grave. Worship completed. I didn't notice anything unusual at the grave. Picked up the iron shovel again. Continued digging into the pit. Digging through the surface black mud. I saw a thin-skinned coffin. The pitch-black coffin lid is still very new. The estimated time since the body was buried is not long. My heart raced even more. I bravely turned the shovel sideways. Stuffed into the gap under the coffin lid. With a strong push. Suddenly the coffin lid creak, a sound. A palm-wide crack was pried open. A cold wind suddenly blew from the pit. I was blinded by the sandstorm. The air around feels increasingly cold. The white-haired one was so scared that sweat drenched his entire neck. Steadying himself, continued to pry the coffin forcefully. The next glance almost made me vomit. Let's not even mention the rancid smell emanating from the corpse. The only thing is its rotten and ferocious appearance. That's quite frightening. This corpse is immediately noticeable. Just buried in the soil not long ago. The corpse had not completely decayed. Wearing a wrinkled blue beast suit. Water flows in all directions. Stuck on the beast's skin. I don't know how much willpower I used. Just convinced myself. Resisted the urge to turn around and run away. A hand pinching the nose. The other hand grabbed the candle. Illuminated most of the corpse's body. There is no doubt. This is a male corpse. Cause of death unknown. But as soon as I looked, it is an unnatural death. The head is flattened. Protruding eyes. The mouth remained slightly open. Exposed blackened gums. We should strive for more debate. How much contention there is. I try not to look at his face. My heart feels like it's been stuffed into an electric motor. It's about to burst out of my chest. Lao Zhu can't wait any longer. Hiding far away under the trees, smoking. Continuously urging from the mouth. Old man, hurry up. Delaying further. The sky is brightening. I tightened my dry throat. Gaze intently under the coffin. It might be good luck. That glance. I really saw a corpse with its belly swollen. The drum became a round ball shape. It feels like something is there. He's gently wriggling. I remembered Lord Huangxi's advice. He carefully took out a small bottle. The bottle contains some crow's blood. The flavor is particularly thick. I sprinkled crow's blood outside the coffin, waiting patiently. As for why crow's blood is used, because crows belong to the eagle family. It is said to be a being that walks between the realms of yin and yang, creatures that can communicate with spirits. The blood of the crow, carrying the same strong aura of nativity. Strongly fishy smell, especially liked by Fen Shan. Sure enough, not long after the crow's blood was spilled, I just sensed that. The round belly of the corpse began to squirm. Not long after, I returned from the veterinarian. A snake the size of a thumb wriggled out. The fat is not very large, only less than 1/2 meter long. The entire body was an eerie gray-white color, covered in spots all over, slightly flattened head, typical triangular shape. The abdomen is relatively short and stout. It is likely a pregnant female snake. Only the burning fan leaped with its short, stout body, walking along the zigzag S-shaped path. Soon I arrived at the place where I scattered Crow's blood. The purple snake eyes glimmer faintly in the darkness. Spit out the long, serpentine nature, licking the corpse next to the Crow's blood continuously. My heart is racing. Keep your back straight. But still, they gritted their teeth and took out a fishing net, while licking the blood of the corpse during the burning fan, throwing forward with all one's might. The fishing net is spread out, immediately covered the burning fan. The beast sensed something was wrong. Immediately turn your body, trying to break free. It's good that the fishing net is sufficient. I tugged at the end of the fishing net. Pull with all your strength. The fan was burned by the retractable fishing net, trapped inside tightly, unable to break free. I sprinkled another handful of glutinous rice on top. Glutinous rice is abundantly positive. You can control the moisture within the fan body. As the glutinous rice scattered, the surface of the fan's body immediately began to emit white smoke. It's extremely eerie. At the same time, the fan burned and caused pain. Hissing of a snake. My body was almost twisted like a pretzel. I can't find the opportunity to take action. At a loss, standing there frozen. Suddenly, old Zhu ran over from the side. A black bag was thrown over. Pointing at the wildly rolling and struggling Wen Shan said, "What are you still standing there for? Quickly put the burning fan inside." I tremble my lips. How to install it? Should we catch it by hand? What does he want me to do? Lao Zhu threw over a pair of cut-resistant gloves. Hurry up. What if it ran away? There's no way to catch it again. I can only grit my teeth and put on the gloves. Fake you, I tightly grasped the 7 inches of the burning fan. This thing doesn't look very big. The skin is smooth and slippery. Full of strength, I bring my hands together. Almost couldn't take control. It took a lot of effort. Finally managed to stuff the burnt fan into my pocket. Suddenly, the burning fan stopped moving, coldly turning the tongue, with a pair of purple tongues. Leng Yaoyu stared at me coldly. I seemed to be in his eyes. I tasted death. So numb, part cold, suddenly felt a chill. From the chrysanthemum plant, it emerges onto the crown of the head. Almost dropped the bag in fright. Fortunately, old Zhu was quick-witted and swift. Quickly helped to tie up the bag tightly. Take out a red string. Tightly bound the bag. Taking a deep breath, he said, "Don't just stand there. Hurry back." I let out a sound. Turning to look, it felt like the coffin lid I had opened myself. Hesitated. I dug open this big brother's grave. How about we just refill it for him? Lao Zhu rolled his eyes relentlessly, saying sang ah. Anyway, it's up to you to do it yourself. I can't be bothered to help. I ignored his persistence. Walked back to the dirt pit, planning to close the coffin lid. Just as the coffin lid was about to be closed, I felt the body. Sleeping posture. It seems different from just now. Suddenly, my scalp felt like it was exploding. Take a closer look. The corpse is now gaping its mouth wide open, the eyes wide open in a violent outburst. Exposed black-purple rotting eyeballs, staring at me ferociously. The throat of the corpse is still convulsing. Slowly from his mouth, drill out another burning fan. Open your mouth a little bit. It looks like you're ready to bite me. Oh my! I was so scared I nearly lost control. I never expected there to be a body. There is actually another hidden fan. quickly let go and closed the coffin lid. Without saying a word, he turned and ran. The face was almost scared to death. I've never been this scared in my life. Lao Zhu quickly caught up. A quick jog, running out of breath. Little brother, why are you running? Those in this line of work only rely on fate. It still isn't enough. You must be bold. There will be many more opportunities to encounter this kind of environment in the future. I am going to kill. I don't want to experience this again. Shaking his head quickly, at the speed of 100-meter sprint, leaving the chaos of the graveyard. On the way back, I am still immersed in fear. I don't understand. How did I end up on this path? Lao Zhu comforted me by saying, "Don't be nervous. This is just like back then. At first, I was very scared. You'll gradually get used to it. You might even find it comfortable." I was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Took the strap from Lao Zhu's hand. Rushed down the mountain before dawn. After a long period of struggle, we finally returned to the city. At this time, dawn was approaching. I am in a hurry to report back to Lord Huang. Quickly booked a train ticket. The grave mound is indeed difficult to carry. Adding this thing is highly toxic. Suddenly jumped out on the road. It would be bad to bite others. Thinking of this, I said to Zhu Bapi, "Lao Zhu, can you give me a suitcase? Pack up the grave hill to avoid trouble on the road." Zhu Bapi immediately took out a briefcase, patted off the dust above. They said this is made of leather. Very thick. The grave hill can never be bitten through. I said thank you, just as I was about to reach out to grab it. The old man stopped me and said, "Wait a moment. This handbag can't be given away for free. The price is 200. I'll give you a 20% discount." My face is completely dark. Cursed silently about the damned shoulder injury, but still obediently paid the money. Just as I finished preparing the grave, I was about to leave. Zhu Bapi called out to me and said, "Wait a moment. Last time, Huang Lao promised, help me polish a few foddy things. I haven't had a chance to send it to him yet. Just in time for you to go back. Please help me put it on." I nodded, borrowed a pocket from him, shook it in his hand. It feels quite heavy. I wonder what is really inside. Bayan Shaojian opened it to take a look. The next second I was scared, jumping in place. Only saw in the pocket, surprisingly, there are several hidden, polished bones. Look at the style. Very similar to a human child's skeleton. I turned pale, shivering. Look at Zhu Bapi. He had a look of an expression of indifference. "Why are you looking at me with that kind of gaze? It's already been said that this is a misty fog. Of course, it's from the body. Dismantled. My lips are floating. Ask him what exactly he does. How can there be so many objects belonging to the dead?" Zhu Bapi said, "I am a merchant, mainly engaged in the audio materials business. Sometimes I also act as an intermediary, help someone contact the master, do some exorcism and home inspection tasks. I feel like you are this kind of person. It's quite appealing. No worries from now on. You can come often to pretend. Waiting for you at Huang Lao's place. Acquired the skills. Maybe in the future. There are still opportunities for collaboration. A genius would never collaborate with you." I thought to myself. He asked again, "Are you very familiar with Lord Huang Si? Did we often collaborate before?" He nodded. "It is said that. But Lord Huang Si is getting old. I haven't gone out to the mountains much in recent years. That's why I'm in a hurry. Find someone who can carry on the legacy. This old man has a rather stubborn temper. From now on, You will take his place. Let's collaborate. Don't worry. Brother is doing things. It's quite fair. I guarantee you won't lose out. How did we settle accounts with Huangxi back then? How will we separate from now on? I was foolish. Is he saying, wait a moment? What do you call him? Yu Bapi said. You probably don't know Huang Lao's name yet. He is named Huang Rene, fourth child in the family. So I got a bandit nickname. Call Huang Siren. I smirked in silence. A Huangxi person. A week of mischief. I really have terrible luck. At the same time, I also interacted with these two. Can I have mine? On the way back, I have been pondering a question. What Lord Huang has instructed is, I judge his true profession. He must be more than just a Feng Shui master. Where can I find a Feng Shui master? It needs to use a fan. I don't know either. What does the adoptive father really think? Unexpectedly left a word. Let me learn skills from such a person. Although I had doubts in my heart, I still need to bring something back to report. Arrived at the courtyard where Master Huangxi lives, I immediately went inside the house. Handed over what was in hand to him. Master Huangxi opened the leather bag, evaluating the trapped Fan Shan inside. It's rare for you to show me a hint of a smile. Praise me for doing well. I hurriedly flattered. Grandfather. Then the first trial. I guess I've passed, right? Who knows, the old man's lips curled up. Instead, they showed a look of disdain. It's not that simple. Catch the burning fan. This is only the first step in completing the test. There's still something for me to do later. I'm speechless. Ask him how else he intends to mess with me. He gave me a strange smile and glanced at me. A hint of amusement flickered in their eyes. Suddenly leaned over to ask me, Are you afraid of dead people? I suddenly had a realization. Last night's encounter. Until now, it still gives me chills down my spine. Nodded restlessly. Of course, I'm scared. He looked even more disdainful. Talking about doing this line of work. If even the dead are afraid, if this gets out, it will definitely be a laughingstock. If I want to become his disciple, you must frequently face the dead. Unable to overcome this hurdle, just give up on the idea of becoming a disciple early on. I feel quite dissatisfied. Who wants to be a disciple? If it weren't for the pressure. Tong Zi Ming, I don't care to learn your skills. Longing for Master Huangxi's face. A face harder than stone. I have never dared to say these words. Gritting one's teeth, threw out the question I wanted to ask the most. Grandfather, what exactly do you do? What is the use of the grave fan really? Huangxi lifted the corner of his eye. The use of the grave fan. I will tell you later. As for what I do, didn't Zhaozhu ever mention it to you? My true identity. Actually, it's a medium. What is a medium? I looked completely confused, filled with questions. Huangxi immediately became displeased. Gave a hard slap on my forehead. I don't know how Chen Mazi taught you. Half-grown boy. But even the score